I'm Sean Fennessy.
I'm Amanda Dabbins.
And this is The Big Picture, a conversation show about Richard Linklater. CR, Chris Ryan, is here.
Here I am.
We're happily building a special Hall of Fame today, a shrine to Big Picture multi-time guest, beloved figure in our movie-watching lives, Richard Linklater. That's going to happen in a minute. Amanda, you were not on the last episode.
No, but
haven't
I
seen you in a
listened to
week.
it.
Did you really?
Of course, yes, I did. Well, first of all, listen. I was traveling. I was out of the country. And I actually got to meet Big Picture fans, so that was very exciting. I would like to say hello.
Bonjour to them.
Bonjour to Tyler. Bonjour to Hans.
You were in Minsk? Where were you?
I was in Paris. And if you are ever lucky enough to be in Paris, go to this restaurant, Le Cheval d'Or, where Hans is the chef. And it's an amazing restaurant. And also, I am like sort of self-conscious about calling him by his first name because there were real The Bear vibes to this restaurant.
Yeah.
And everyone was very friendly and you just wanted to hang out with all of them. But he really should be chef.
What about Chef Hans?
Chef Hans. I didn't clear that with him. Okay. Anyway, so I met a lot of Big Pic fans. I saw a lot of posters for Furiosa. And also Bleu and Company, which is how they're advertising If in Paris.
That's funny. Did you
or
run
maybe
If
Bleu
back?
and Friends? Yeah, I think it's like Bleu and Companions. But no, I didn't. I thought about going to see a romantic comedy entirely in French, starring Léa Seydoux, among other people. But my French isn't that good, so they weren't showing subtitles.
Okay.
So I'll have to catch that. Anyway, landed from Paris, pretty jet lagged. Log back online and I see Sean's done a monologue about the box office, and I was like, "Oh Christ!" Made like an extra large cup of coffee, sat down. I was like, "Here I go." And I just want to say,
did you watch it or listen to it?
I listened to it.
Okay.
You did great. I was very proud of you.
Thanks.
That was really good.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, good
Have
job.
you gotten good feedback from?
You kept it together
from the Hollywood community about that?
Yeah. I just got an incredible call from Bob Iger. First thing the episode posted. It was 6 a.m. PDT. He called me at 6:02. He was listening at 10x because that's how fast he listens to pods. And he said, "Sean, you are doing the work."
Yeah.
And I haven't been doing the work, and I apologize to you. So I think it's going well. Everything's going well.
Yeah.
It's terrible, but it's fine. Like everything's fine.
Well, you're right. It's bad, but it's fine. I actually got, I don't want to say a fight, but at dinner with my husband on our last night of the trip, he was like, "So you seen the Furiosa box office?" And I was like, "Yeah, that seems bad." And he's like, "You don't seem that upset about it." And we talked about this for a while, and this ultimately became a conversation about our marriage and our various decision-making processes, which is good. It worked out. But it's what you said. Like, it is terrible, but it's kind of done. The business has changed. And everyone seems to understand that except for the people making their decks to present to the other business people. And even there, I think they understand it, but they just have to convince their shareholders of something so they can offload their debt so they can get like whatever correct. So it's fucking depressing. It's interesting. This is the thing about covering or being defenders or enthusiasts of an art form that is so tied to commercial appeal. And it is like art and commerce all at once. And sometimes you have to defend
the big corporation.
Suits until you don't. You just have to say, well, maybe they'll figure out, maybe they won't.
You mentioned decks there for a second. Yeah. Did you know there's a lot of disruption happening in the deck space?
Tell me. First of all, tell me how you learned about this.
The best ever segue. This is the best thing that I've seen.
The only reason why I'm here, I'm like, fine, I'm Richard Linklater movies. I need to talk to you about Edward Norton's new venture called Zek, which is about ZECK.
Are you fucking serious right now?
Hold on. It's about changing the way boards do corporate governance, and especially how they present their information in decks. And I watched Edward Norton make an 8-minute appearance.
I'm Googling this in
on
real time.
CNBC.
You're not lying.
And I was like, surely this will be like one question about his deck company and then a ton of questions about rounders.
No.
Wow. I just found the selfie of the co-founders and Edward Norton.
This guy cares more about decks than he does about being the greatest actor of his generation, which he may very well be. But it's just like one of the most unbelievable things. But he's currently shooting A Complete Unknown.
I've seen those.
So he's doing Pete Seeger, and I think he's missing a tooth for it.
He is.
So he was on CNBC without like a front tooth.
It's Pete Seeger wearing a $5,000 button down talking about corporate governance
and wearing like
and he's missing a tooth.
Yeah, and wearing like a CEO hat.
It's remarkable.
Yeah.
It is truly the dystopian future. Like, what if you could be a great artist and Edward Norton is a great artist and also participate in this corporate economy that you were just describing? He is living both lives.
Sorry, I'm on Zek.app, which is and they're not sponsoring this. And there's sort of like a breaking news alert on top of the Zek.app. It says Zek announces Series A round led by Salesforce. Wow.
That's what this was in support of.
Okay, congratulations.
So they have
they currently work with many
one
nonprofits.
Of several tabs is Zek AI, and then another one is the Zekgeist. That's awesome. I mean, that is also my living nightmare, but it's kind of beautiful that somehow Edward Norton has taken that and turned it back into performance art.
Yes.
Are you feeling okay about the box office? Don't care.
Yeah, you know what? I saw the other day. It was like Challengers made 86 million. And I was like, I wonder if in a month or two, everything is going to feel much different and fine.
You know what was really funny about that? The reporting on all the Tuesday box office was like way up for every movie. And I don't know what that was about. I don't know if people are taking extra long Memorial Day weekends or just because Tuesdays are historically.
They heard your pod and they were like, I got to get out there.
Maybe they were supporting
or
us.
It's AMC Day.
That's the thing is it's a reduced price day. And then all of a sudden, all these movies that had lousy weekends went up. And then all the box office reporters were like, maybe this is not so bad. Like The Fall Guy was on digital for 10 days and more people went to go see The Fall Guy last Tuesday than the Tuesday before that, which is just bizarre. Anyway, who knows? Like, who fucking knows?
That is another thing. Like, the way that we talk about these things and box office reporting and the trades is all wound up in its own corporate Series A funding.
Totally.
Right. You know,
managed messages
nonsense.
from, sources and all this other stuff. It's just about whether the movies are good or not, And you know who makes good movies is Richard Linklater.
Great segue.
Great segue.
He actually almost never, I guess one time he made a movie that you'd be like, that movie is a big hit. That was School of Rock.
I watched it on the airplane on the way back.
Obviously, a lovely movie. But that's not really something he does. And yet, he's really in that group of filmmakers over the last 30 years that we talk about all the time, from the Spike Lee, Soderbergh, Tarantino, David Fincher, like that whole crew.
Early 90s, late 80s breakouts.
Yeah, out of the Sundance, not from New York or Los Angeles. And he persists. I mean, he remains, I don't know if major filmmaker is the right way to describe him because he's always kind of doing his own thing. He's never operating inside of Hollywood, but he's got another movie coming out. I guess technically it's already out, but only in 44 theaters, but premiering next Friday on Netflix called Hitman, starring Glenn Powell. Pretty much makes a movie every 18 months. Has really never slowed down. He has 21 movies that we'll go through as we build the Hall of Fame. So let's start with this. Amanda, do you remember the first Richard Linklater movie you saw?
I think it must be Before Sunrise, right? Because I was 9 for Dazed and Confused. And so I don't really think that made it over the transom. And then at that time, anyway, I saw Dazed and Confused many times in college with many young men.
Many men.
Who were
many
sheep with it, buy it in the way.
You think 50 Cent has seen Dazed and Confused? You think he'd be interested in that? He might.
But yeah, Before Sunrise, I think from the Ethan Hawke awareness and the reality bites, of it all, led me to a movie about two people talking a lot in Europe. So, that's shaped my life ever since.
I thought you were going to say the Newton Boys. That led me to the Newton Boys. Do you remember your first, Chris?
Yeah, it was Slacker. So Slacker came out in 90, and I think I remember being really allured by and intimidated by the poster or the cover of the VHS. So it's like this young woman in the scene in the movie. It's a hilarious scene, but on the poster, I was just like, what is this person going to tell me when I watch this movie? When I finally work up the nerve to do it, it was like this totem of underground culture that I was like first becoming aware of in high school. So I always associate the cover of Slacker with like the album cover of Slanted and Enchanted by Pavement, where I'm like, what is this? Why am I drawn to it? And what is it going to do to me once I finally wrap my head around it? And I remember watching Slacker, had never seen anything like it in my life. Definitely did not understand 75% of it. But the 25% that I was like, oh, I think I kind of know people like this who don't want to do anything with their lives and just want to talk all day about how they're feeling and what they're thinking. And I was like, you can do that in a movie?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Turns out you can do it for a whole career. Look at you now.
Look at me now.
You did it.
That's
so
right.
influential. Yeah. Mine must have been Dazed and Confused. I would have been 11 when it came out. I definitely didn't see it in a movie theater. I think I saw it on VHS from Blockbuster. You know, it had the smiley face cover
Sure,
and,
yeah.
and the tie-dye, which I think probably appealed to my mom. And that's why she let me rent it, because she was like, oh, this is a movie about my life, which I guess in some ways it is. And that movie, we did a rewatch on it a long time ago. But that movie is a 6-star classic. It's like it is better than 5 stars.
Did you just invent 6 stars?
I did right here. It's so influential on my taste and on my like expectations of what movies like that are. And actually, in some ways, you could see that Linklater is like still weirdly kind of chasing that movie. Even like a lot of his contemporary dramedies feel like they're trying to get back to that thing, which is interesting because that's a movie about trying to get back to something. I love that movie very much. Definitely got me hooked on his stuff. I too watched Slacker at like 12 years old and was like, what is this? I couldn't make hide nor hair of it. Like I really...
Bill watched it and was like, this guy has a lot of things to say about the Kennedy assassination. And I'm digging it.
Yeah. That part actually is maybe the most scrutable part of the whole movie.
Yeah.
But then the sunrise, sunset movies were pretty significant. Sunset is an all-time movie for my wife and I, as I'm sure it is for many couples that are in our age bracket. How would you describe his filmmaking style?
It is character and like word driven, and at the same time experimenting with form, particularly with time. You know, so it's like big time feelings. It's to me in a lot of ways like I'm technically Linklater is not Gen X, but when I just think of Gen X feelings and how I learned about a lot of them, it's through all these dudes, you know, just hanging out in bars, talking about, you know, the baseball teams that they used to play for.
That is literally the dream.
And then and like sorting through their feelings with more words than I associate with most other men in movies.
That's my whole thesis on him, is that he's the real Bull Durham. Like he's the jock poet for real. Like he actually is genuinely curious about the arc of time and how it impacts our emotional lives and cannot get over it and is constantly thinking. And you could see when he was 17 that this is something he considered even when he was, you know, the starting quarterback on his high school football team. How would you describe his filmmaking style?
Well, it's visually, I find it to be pretty invisible. Like I find him curious and present and inquisitive and comfortable being kind of like the camera is here to watch human behavior take place and to capture moments that even in his quote unquote Hollywood movies or genre movies, like it's like, what can I get out of this that is unexpectedly real and true? You know, so even something like Newton Boys or whatever, he's gonna like wait and try and find the like part of humanity. I think he does that really well in Hitman, like where he's gonna like squeeze out some weird, very true moment from these characters, which I always really appreciate. I don't necessarily, when I close my eyes and I think of the definitive like Linklater set piece or scene or shot, like, you know, there's obviously moments in Dazed and Confused that come to mind, but I don't think of him as an overly didactic visual storyteller. I will say that I think he might be the voice, if not, it's not really my generation, but the voice of a generation.
Yes.
And has continued to make movies that feel deeply connected to the way he sees the world and the way he's engaging with the world. And whether that's politically or it has to do with being a parent or being a child or being somebody who is lost in their own nostalgia or uncertain about their future. Every couple of movies, you feel like he's kind of like planting a mile marker to be like, all right, here's where I'm at now, you know? And it's been fascinating to go from Slacker and Dazed and Suburbia, honestly, and Before Sunrise, where you're like, okay, like this is the voice of like this young, wandering, despondent, kind of alienated person to all the way through Boyhood and Everybody Wants Some, kind of having this more like, I need to go back and fix certain things, but also celebrate certain things. And I think that's an incredible project for a filmmaker and maybe unique among all working filmmakers with the exception of like Spielberg. Like, I mean, of somebody who's like, and he's more through genre, but like, who else goes and like comments on their own lived experience and autobiography with this frequency, with this kind of fanfare?
Yeah. I mean, there are some, but they often do it in much more oblique ways.
Yeah.
I think the things that, like, Wes Anderson is clearly doing that.
Right.
But he's just doing it through the prism of different kinds of stories or different kinds of influences
Yeah.
and time periods. I think he has that very Texas matter of factness to what he's doing that makes it seem like very accessible. You know, like he's also like he obviously is well known for being a staple of Austin, but he was born in Houston. You know what I mean? He was raised in Huntsville.
Yeah.
Like he's just a very direct communicator. So he's like, here's a movie about when I was in college playing baseball. And yet that movie is just like magically transporting and deeply relatable and really considered and philosophical.
Yeah.
You know, he's very philosophical in all of these movies, trying to better understand why things are the way that they are and maybe how they could have been. I think part of the reason that he's able to do what Chris is describing is because he's always just making movies on his terms. He's never like, I should probably go make Transformers 6 just in case, you know, like I got to backstop whatever I'm interested in. Like he really never does that. I guess he remade Bad News Bears and he made School of Rock, but even those movies, he's poured a lot of himself and his own ideas and interests into those movies. And those are really like as kind of commercial as he gets. Even a movie like Hitman, which, you know, you call your movie Hitman and you're expecting a certain kind of a thing. Like the whole movie is about upending and subverting our expectations of a movie
just
about
like
that.
Bernie, like like he's
So I think it's because maybe he's able to keep things at a modest scale on a regular basis that they can always feel like him. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, he is, you know, very famously set up shop in Texas, like has a whole compound, is like, leave me alone. I'm going to do things on a low budget and with my own funding or, you know, with cobbled together without a studio. So you can't tell me what to do. And I will film something for 13 years over the span of like a weekend, like I'm going to camp in the case of Boyhood. Or again, he's doing it again with Merrily We Roll Along. So with Paul Mescal. So he's, it has just a real, the same vibe that are like in his characters, speaking of autobiography, which is like, I'm just doing my thing. Like, you know, and I'm going to figure it out. And like a little bit of a loner, but still interested in other people and wants to set his own vibe and also manages to put all of that in the movies that he makes because there aren't that many other people except for this troupe of actors and, you know, collaborators that he works with time and time and time again. So there is just kind of a whole little Linklater universe that no matter what kind of genre he's doing and whether it is another, you know, School of Dazed and Confused or a Hitman, it's like, oh, I'm in a Linklater movie right now. These people are all talking to me in that like certainly direct way. And I want to spend more time here, but it's like a little off kilter and just a very specific, I mean, it's very personal filmmaking.
Yeah. I'm trying to think about your question that you asked about what other filmmakers, and it's like, you kind of have to go back a little bit.
Yeah,
It's like Mike Lee does
Woody
this.
Allen,
Woody Allen did that.
Yeah.
You know, Preston Sturges did that where, and again, to your point about the troops where you have like these recurring faces and voices that are kind of coming up over and over again, or even like filmmaking styles, like making 3 rotoscoped movies over the course of 15 years. Like he is comfortable in a mode, you know, like in a way that very few filmmakers are now because of how challenged I think Hollywood has been in the last 10 years, but he's also been super smart. He's been like, I will take Amazon's money to make Where'd You Go, Bernadette. I will take Netflix's money to make Amazon 10.5. I will take the Amazon money to put Hitman out in the world.
Yeah.
Like he's pretty savvy about how to keep his head above water as an independent filmmaker.
He's the person who is most stuck to the one for you, one for me ethos that I think was promised out of that Sundance generation, and like the idea that you would be able to make your version of their movie and then your version of your movie and one would pay for the other. I also just really deeply identify with and appreciate how prolific he is. I think that there's so much to discover and enjoy throughout his filmography, and the fact that he's like it feels like he's like bursting with creativity and also a deep desire to be on set, to work, to edit, to make these movies that I think only Soderbergh really matches him in terms of the output. And both of those guys, I think from very different perspectives, are like the cumulative experience of my work at the end will be my version of making There Will Be Blood and then making The Master or whatever.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like I need to always be working. And then when you watch 4 of my movies that were made over the course of 7 years, you're going to be like, damn, those were really good. And now like we have to rethink how we were thinking about this filmmaker.
Yeah, it's a good comparison because Soderbergh, like Linklater, are both students of movie and filmmaker history. And there's, that pivot point in Linklater's life where he went to Sam Houston State. He was going to play sports. He was going to play football, I think, at school, or baseball at school. Got hurt, left school, moved to Austin, and then for like 2 years just went to the movies every day and watched movies for 12 hours. So that was his version of a film school, was just like he just watched everything.
Yeah.
And you can see that as you go through some of his movies and you're like, why did he make an Orson Welles movie? Why is he making a movie called Nouvelle Vague about the French New Wave? Like, he's consumed by the arc of filmmakers' careers and movie history too. So I think you're right that he has this like, it'll all come out in the wash sensibility where he's like, just keep working, just keep making stuff. Some will hit, some won't. Like I just I talked to him for the show. It'll air next week. And I feel like he's kind of unstuck in time. Like he looks exactly the same. Like he's like 63 years old. He's got floppy brown hair and the same face that he had 25 years ago when you're watching like featurettes of him directing Bad News Bears. And I don't know, like most directors, first of all, it's a hard job. It's a very stressful job. Those guys age hard. It's tough to be like, yeah, everything's good, man. Good to see you. Like that's always his vibe anytime I've ever talked to him.
But also that's the vibe of the movies. Even when people are going through like deep emotional crises or completely lost or don't know, it's just kind of like, we're just going to kind of keep trying.
You think it's a shield of masculinity? A shield of chill?
No, I don't think so. I think maybe it's aspirational. Maybe we would all like to get to that place of comfort, masculinity or otherwise. I know you guys would. I'd love to,
I gotta stop drinking all this coffee.
Yeah.
You think the coffee is capping your masculinity or is unleashing it, or what's the problem?
No, it's just putting up a jittery shield.
Right.
Interesting.
I have a nervous energy.
I don't know whether
have.
like calm is gonna ever come for you in that capacity.
Also, the coffee might be what unlocks the box office for you. Like that's what you truly
when I put it away.
You drinking so much coffee is why you can see the ones and the zeros.
I don't think I can, but that's nice of you to say. What's your favorite?
Probably Before Sunset. Because a little bit my interest set, and then it's the most romantic I think of the three, and we talked a little bit about this when we did a Linklater episode tied to Melissa Meritz's book about Dazed and Confused, which is wonderful, and I recommend if you haven't read it. But sometimes there is such a comfort with the subject matter and emotions and his masculine or whatever's going on that like these characters can be too vulnerable for me, and I'm like, oh my god, and
Jesse is too vulnerable for you.
And Before Sunrise, and the older you get, like the more they're just like these two.
Oh my god, but he nailed that 22-year-old guy who's just like,
it's an incredible performance. Yeah. It's not that it's not right. It's just that sometimes like my cynicism, like my shield, makes me be like, ugh! And so, and then. Well,
you got to turn yourself over to it.
And Before Sunset, like you can't not, and it's like the perfect balance of these people being vulnerable, but also like not totally wanting to put themselves out there, but like finally giving in. So I guess it's the one I'm most comfortable with. I mean, I also really, really like Before Midnight, but that's not like a thing you want to say in public when you're in a marriage.
I
think we have to, unfortunately, today.
The Before Midnight crew, it's like getting back from Nam. It's like everybody's just like, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Understanding it more and more as the older I get. I mean, that's the thing that is really fun about his movies too, is that some of the movies are about going back and some of them are about what's happening right now.
Yeah.
And obviously that movie and all three of the Before films are very informed by the two stars who are co-writers on the second two movies, especially. They have screenwriting credit. But Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy, who have been through divorces, have been through traumatic experiences, have raised families, and the three of them pouring their angst and feeling into the latter two movies, I find to be like really powerful. What's your favorite?
It's either before sunset or dazed, depending
It's okay to
on the
say
day.
dazed.
I mean, dazed is like something I've seen so many times now that like I think sunset still like shocks me and makes me, it hits me in different ways now. But dazed, I feel like I could watch. If you were like you can only take one movie to a desert island, like dazed would be in the conversation.
Oh, well, you've just landed on a future episode.
Desert Island DVDs.
Desert Island Blu-rays,
Okay.
yeah. You're not invited.
Why is he invited?
Well, because he at least respects my work.
Desert Island Discs is a big,
it's a big show. Yeah,
thing.
Yeah. But for films,
but Desert Island DVDs is not.
What if there was a region-free Blu-ray on this island? Oh,
right.
That would be incredible.
Yeah, could you watch like sort of like the director's cut of The Raid? Over
and over again. That's what you would do. Yeah, just to pass the time. I think my favorite is Dazed and Confused, but I think I agree with you both that there's something about Sunset that is like a forever movie. You wouldn't be surprised to learn that long after we've died, there is acknowledgement of an incredible, like a fascinating achievement, especially in like it's a sequel. You know, I mean, it's very unusual for a movie to in some ways like elevate what was so great about the original. And the original is beautiful and very romantic and very much I'm 23. And it captures that really well in a very sincere way. But the second film, the scene in the car where he's like, you go by, and he's looking out the window and she like reaches for him, but he doesn't see. I'm like, how do you, this is really happening?
Yeah.
Like that's very rare.
Also has like one of the best endings in the history of movies.
Yes. You're going to miss that plane. So it's a 1A and 1B, I think, for me as well. It's nice that we can all agree on that.
Outside of the Dazed and Before movies, is there like a coming up the charts?
Well,
Heat Seeker?
I mean, Everybody Wants Some is the answer, but that is also like that's the answer, but that's also
that's in the Dazed. Yeah,
sure.
It's like,
I think it's different though.
It is different, and it's beautiful and transcendent.
I think that there's a way to watch Dazed, and you could never watch another Richard Linklater movie, and I don't think you would get the full picture of what he does as a filmmaker. But I weirdly feel like if you watch Everybody Wants Some, it's very illustrative of what he does as a filmmaker, where you start and you're like, oh man, are these guys gonna bust balls for 2 hours? This is awesome. I can't wait. Go, like, this picture is my favorite character. And then it's just like, no, it's not that, man. Like, it's this 40-minute party that then they go off and like they're tripping and they're having like they're basically altering their perception of reality. And it's so different, but it's like so rewarding to return to.
That movie is also fantastic, very underseen. And if people are listening and they haven't heard us say 3,000 times on the show, like watch Everybody Wants Some, watch Everybody Wants Some. I think it's just so specific in the same way that Dazed and Confused is so specific. Like the Wyatt Russell character and his speech about hearing the music while getting high, and then him getting kicked off the team because he's like 28 years old. It's like you couldn't make that up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he clearly went through an experience like that. Well, you think it's a movie about the guys, or you think it's a movie about this like very blissful time of young love, but it's also about all these other things at the same time. And most movies are not willing to kind of be Shaggy like that.
Yeah.
Like a lot of his movies are just so comfortable being as Shaggy as they are. It's something that I really like about Hitman, actually, that Hitman, through the first 15 minutes, I was like, ooh, I'm not sure this is really what I want him to be doing. And then by the time I got to the end, I was like, Linklater movie.
Right.
Like, cool, great. You did it again. Like, you landed whatever it was that I thought it was going to be this, and then you made him feel like this, which he consistently upsets our expectations around those things. I'm trying to think of what would be the one for me beyond those two parallel tracks of Before and the Remembering My Youth movies. I think for most people listening to the show, it would be School of Rock, which is also, I think, in many ways the biggest outlier, because it is so conventional with such a conventional leading comic performance. It feels like a 2000s comedy in a direct way. That's not a criticism at all. I think if we were 10 years younger, we would probably have bigger relationships to School of Rock, but we're not. So we don't. I like it. I think it's really fun.
It is still the film for most of his movies that aren't hardcore indie, like experimental Linklater movies. it's like from the director of School of Rock and Dazed and Confused is the title card they put on them.
Yeah.
And it's still obviously like a calling card movie for him, even if we're probably like, why wouldn't you say Before Sunset is the,
yeah.
It was the one movie available, the one Linklater movie available on the plane. Anyone But You was available for literally everybody else on the plane, just in case you guys were wondering. Just like
interesting.
I mean, which is great.
They were all watching.
Glenn Powell, like everyone was checking out Anyone But You.
Not to get too sidetracked.
Yeah,
but let's do it.
Like why did that happen? Why did that become the thing that happened? Like I talked about it in the box office monologue. We talked about it on the show. Its success is fascinating to me. Because it's like everybody I've talked to has acknowledged, like, this isn't really that good, but I want to watch it.
Right. Well, why it happened at the box office was Sydney Sweeney TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the power of Sydney Sweeney with people who just graduated from, what are the Minions called? The Gentle Minions.
College.
Right? Or college. Or maybe they're still in college.
Yeah.
Or
You
maybe
think
college
Gentle
doesn't matter
Minions graduated to Sydney Sweeney in a bikini in Australia? Like
I do.
You think there's a direct line there? Okay, great.
Well,
I support you.
Just look at the demographics.
But a lot of women saw that movie.
Sure, because they'll go see a rom-com, or they're also interested.
They know. That's really my point. Is like they won't. So if they won't, then why did they go see this one? I mean, Glenn Powell obviously is emerging as a draw, but I'm really quite fascinated by everybody being like, I gotta see this on a plane.
There's been like in a lot of the bad conversation, there has been a lot of Barbenheimer was, why can't we recreate Barbenheimer? And that proved that people do want to go to the movies. But as you said, it's an exception. Like it's sort of like a strange event that then encouraged more people who normally wouldn't be a part of the event to want to join in. And I do feel like Anyone But You among like 22-year-olds sort of became this thing where
I guess
people would go see it. And then it was again, we're just too old to like really be able to speak to what was going on with the young people. On the plane, it's like, you've heard of it, and what the hell else are you going to watch on the plane? The guy next to me watched Zone of Interest, and I thought that was a choice.
Salute to him.
Straight up, here's what he did. This all-time hero. Started off with Beekeeper, straight into Ferrari, straight into Zone of Interest.
Wow, you sat next to Chris on the plane? Amazing. That's a sick triple feature.
Yeah.
Sick.
It's unbelievable. This guy has taste.
Sir, come on the big picture.
I almost leaned over. He was like very respectful of my personal space, so I wanted to respect as well. But I
window
was like,
or aisle?
He was window, I was aisle.
Okay.
But then literally everyone else watched Anyone But You. So what did I watch? Oh yeah, I told this because I watched School of Rock because it was the only Linklater film available on the plane, and I'd seen it before. It's very charming. I mean, the kids. It is a Linklater film in that it's about a band of people trying to vibe out together and find themselves. They're just like 9.
Yeah.
And they're at a weird prep school. But it got to that scene that Jack Black does with like the Legend of Ren is 2:30 or whatever. And I realized that I've seen this clip like 80,000 times. I don't know why. I'm not seeking it out. I'm not like a huge Jack Black fan, as everyone who listened to the holiday rewatchables let me know was not acceptable.
All 18 people who listen to that episode.
A lot of people listen to that.
That is the longest movie ever made.
Just because
it's literally Showa, and then in second place is The Holiday.
I'm a Nancy Meyers defender. Let her make her movie. But I don't really care for The Holiday that much, or the Jack Black parts of it. Anyway, that movie has...
Oh yeah, he's the composer in that movie, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's right.
And he takes Kate Winslet on a date to a Blockbuster and just like sings music scores at her in the aisles.
I can see you doing that.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
No, but he's doing like Jack Black, like, and you're just like, my face is melting off. Anyway.
When I do that, I sing O Solo Mio, just in full.
I'm still thinking about the guy watching Beekeeper and Zone of Interest. And
inside me live 2 wolves.
No, it's just like, that's the wolf.
It was really, really, really special. I spent a lot of time just like walking back and forth, nosing into what people were watching on the movies, and he won.
One other thing that I like about the Linklater movies is this is actually exactly the same to me as Spike Lee and Soderbergh, which is all 3 of these guys have made roughly 10 movies that no one ever thinks about or talks about. And all of them, I'm like, there's something interesting going on in this movie. You know, like Bernie is one of those movies that I'm like in a quiet moment. I'm like, what was really going on with Bernie?
And it's also
there?
like, his
Fast Food
movies,
Nation,
and I think to some extent, like some of the more recent Soderbergh movies, is like they obviously, like, especially the ones they do for studios, they have no idea how to market them. Like the Bernie trailer is, you're like, that's not what happens in this movie. And the same thing is kind of true for Where'd You Go, Bernadette?
Yes.
That one.
Where you're just like, this isn't really the vibe. Last Flag Flying, same thing.
I really like that movie.
I put his movies in buckets for us to maybe as a way of like kind of categorizing. Obviously, if we're building a Hall of Fame, we're not going to be like doing it necessarily from this, but I wonder how much he would subscribe to this, where he has a group of autobiographical Texas films.
What are those movies?
So Slacker, Dazed, Boyhood, Want Some. And then I would actually highly recommend and highlight his documentary that came out earlier this year called God Save Texas, which is about growing up in Huntsville and in the shadow of the prison that's there, and his relationship to capital punishment, and this community's relationship to this prison. It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
it's like 50 minutes long. It's on Max, and he is the on-screen narrator and journalist in it, and it's awesome.
It's kind of like if he was a non-obnoxious Michael Moore.
Yes.
Like that's the filmmaking approach, which I don't think he'd ever really done before.
Right.
Which is really cool.
But that's interesting you mentioned that, because he's also made several polemical movies, or his version of polemical movies. So that would be Fast Food Nation, and like God Save Texas. But there was another one. Wait, what was it? It was.
I mean, a Scanner Darkly in some ways is that.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, Last Flag Flying.
Last
like
Flag
that.
Flying. Yeah. And then Hollywood Dalliances, which is essentially like the times where he's worked with major studios, or at least major stars, to like kind of either adapt a piece of literature, remake a film. So it's, Bad News Bears, School of Rock, Newton Boys, Bernadette, Flag Flying. I think me and Orson Welles to some extent is that.
It is.
Sure, yeah.
And then he has like these, I call it adventures in storytelling, but it is like his sort of formal experiments. So whether that's telling Boyhood and the Before movies over the course of years, or Tape, or Scanner Darkly, where he's like experimenting with different ways to tell stories. And I think it's so cool that in each of these sections, different movies can go in multiple sections.
Right.
And also that he has not stopped making any one kind of these movies.
Yes. It's a really good point. When Apollo 10.5 came out, which I felt like was just super overlooked. Like, I don't, did you even see it? We never talked about it on the show.
No, I don't think I did. And that's also Glenn Powell.
Glenn Powell, yeah.
As
he
I
John
like
Glenn?
space,
Yeah.
so,
He plays an astronaut, and it's a kind of like reimagining of the space race from the perspective of a family in Texas. And it's like a fascinating, beautiful Richard Linklater movie that came out during COVID. So people were like, I'm good. I don't want to watch that. It's on Netflix,
There was also another Apollo. It was Apollo 11. Which was a documentary that also came out during COVID.
Yeah.
That was like
some
the
confusion around
the
recreation
title.
archival. Yeah.
Was that on Apple? What was Apollo 11 on?
I think it was theatrically released in 19 and then came to streaming during the pandemic.
Okay.
So there might have been some title confusion there.
Going on there.
I think that's right. I think that breakdown is right, and I agree. I like how they bleed into each other.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Bernie is a Texas movie as much as it is.
Sure.
Totally. His next two movies, Nouvelle Vague, Merrily We Roll Along, we mentioned. He's still at it. What year do you predict we'll get Merrily We Roll Along?
I don't really know the story of Merrily We Roll Along, so I don't know how much they age.
Quite a bit. That's a Sondheim musical. I've seen this musical. And the movie starts essentially in the future. It starts with the older version of the cast. So I think they're roughly in their 40s when the show starts, and then it kind of goes back to their 20s. So Paul Mescal's like 28. So how long are they going to do this?
I don't know.
I honestly don't know how long he's going to make this.
In the source text is over 20 years. I feel like I read some, unsourced Twitter update that was like, Paul Mescal will be doing this for the next 13 years or something like that.
And it said that he has filmed 2 parts of it so far.
Yeah.
It's also currently on Broadway. It is Daniel Radcliffe and Jonathan Groff.
His version will be Paul Mescal, Beanie Feldstein, and Ben Platt are the 3 principals in the story. It's based on another story. I can't remember what it is. That Sondheim adapted, another famous musical that he kind of inverted. Anyhow, there's that, and then Nouvelle Vague, which is apparently about the rise of new wave French filmmakers.
Is it the making of Breathless? Like, is it centered around something in
I
particular?
know that that's a part of the story. I'm not sure. That feels like a movie that I think he's finishing it. Let's find out.
Somebody who just cut her hair on Instagram, and it was like, holy shit. Yeah. Wait for it. It's coming.
Here we go. Zoe Deitch.
Tell me how you learned about Zoe Deitch's haircut on Instagram. Okay.
It was just like, I think she like cut her hair like on camera.
Okay.
And then they like did it.
Yeah. Like the Felicity haircut. Yeah. Everyone should listen to Dear Felicity, hosted by Juliette Lipman, and especially the oral history of that haircut.
Great episode.
Yeah.
She's the only American actor in this film.
Okay.
Otherwise represented. Someone playing Godard, Truffaut, Romer, Claude Chabrol, Roberto Rossellini, Agnes Varda, Jean Cocteau, Jacques Rivette, Raël Cotard. A lot of the heavy hitters.
Filmed all in Paris.
Are you appearing in the film? Is that why you were there for reshoots?
Yeah.
That's great. Who are you playing? Okay, you want to build the Hall of Fame?
Yeah. I haven't done this in a while.
Do you think this is going to be contentious?
There's like 7 movies that automatically have to go in.
Yeah. But I just don't think it's the vibe of this project.
And the vibe of Richard Linklater.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Rick would not appreciate a quarrel in this discussion.
Well, I just kind of, I don't know. You don't really come guns blazing for this, which is why the Newton Boys probably won't be going in.
No.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. Never know. CR always has one in his back pocket. Just like, was it Jim Newton? Which Newton are we talking about here? Okay, let's start with 1990 Slacker. This is obviously his big breakthrough. This is the movie that taught Chris about the JFK conspiracy. That taught Chris about Crooked Rain.
JFK taught me about the JFK conspiracy.
He taught
you? That one first?
The film, the Oliver Stone's movie.
Okay. The dead president did not
Guys,
come to you in your sleep.
I fucking can't wait for the Costner Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to do this Hall of Fame, and this will be really fun.
Costner Hall of Fame will be a blood sport, I think.
Yeah, also, there are a lot of, I watched a Kevin Costner movie on the plane that will not be going in Hall of Fame, but I have at least a 5-minute presentation to do. So
is it the film
Black and White?
That's the exact joke I was going to make. I'd like to revisit Black and White just to be sure, to be sure, that their heart was in the right place on that one. You don't want to share what it is?
No. I'm the element of surprise.
Okay, all right. We are doing the Kevin Costner Hall of Fame next month. That is our Hall of Fame conversation. You want to be a part of that?
Sure.
Will you be able to rewatch all 37 feature films?
Consider them rewatched. Honestly, consider them taken.
Have you seen Horizon yet?
I haven't.
Will you go? Can we go together?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You know that I still also want. I mean, do you want to go see 1 and then wait to go see 2, or do you want to wait for 2 to come out and see 1 and 2 together?
I don't think that Sean's going to allow me to wait until 2 comes out to podcast
I'll tell you
about
what,
1.
Solo 90-minute Horizon Chapter 1 pod. I think I can do it now.
Zach.
I think. Well, I would love that.
There you go.
I thought about asking about whether he would
Zach
want to come
can
chat
come
with
on
us
the-
about it.
I will definitely go see Horizon.
Okay.
An American Saga Part 1 with you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I feel like me going alone to see Horizon Part 1 is not the experience I want to have.
Horizon Part 1, I don't mind telling you, is a movie that I enjoyed watching, despite the entire time thinking to myself, I have some notes. But I did enjoy myself.
Yeah.
So I look forward to speaking with
great.
you both about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Slacker.
Yeah.
I think it's in.
Yeah, I think it's in too.
And not just my usual hang up about the breakthrough movie.
No.
Like,
I think it's storied in the Linklater.
Did you rewatch Slacker?
mythos.
I did not. I have seen it many times.
Did you ever watch Slacker and be like, this is how I want to live? Like, I want to just be smoking and talking about stuff all day?
I really like that question. I really, really appreciate your perspective on the world and the fact that you would think that I could live that way without losing my mind.
I think if you were from Texas, you might.
I know. Well, that's the problem. I've got jittery Long Island energy. All this fucking coffee, all this shitty Mets fandom, all this angst, all this
Are you
nothingness.
really going to quit watching the Mets?
I mean, I already have.
Okay. How did you watch this
I'm
Mets
not
Dodgers?
quitting.
How did you watch this Mets Dodgers series?
I couldn't watch most of it because it was happening
I know.
during working hours.
That's,
yeah.
Oh, no, okay. But
there was a double header, so I couldn't watch any of that. I mean, Bobby and I were literally like doing interviews and
I'm
stuff.
talking about basic access to the cable
Oh,
sports
she's
network.
still on the bundle.
Oh, I'll tell you what. I listened to Game 1 in the car on the way to a screening on the radio. So I listened to my guy Howie Rose, which is actually how when it's an LA situation, that's what I'll do. I'll like put it on the MLB audio and then like take a walk or
Did
something.
some guy get DFA'd today, Bob?
Yeah, it was like a whole thing. It was a reliever who got ejected for arguing a check swing call, which was clearly not a check swing, or like was clearly not a swing. And then after getting ejected, he walked into the dugout and threw his glove over the netting into the stands. And then he allegedly called the team the worst fucking team in the MLB in his post-game presser.
There's been some conjecture about this, that he may have been saying he's the worst fucking teammate in the MLB.
Okay. Because he blew
unclear.
It.
Yeah, what
he let his guys down.
Well, perhaps.
Yeah.
English is not his first language, so there was some confusion about the translation of what it was that he was trying to say. Nevertheless, it was a real let's roll up these tents. There's let's on to the Jets. Really, we're 11 games under 500 in May. That's not good. That's not where you want to be. Not like the Phils.
I'm not.
You don't want to jinx it.
Yeah.
We've been watching a lot of Phils because
How
that
could
we
you
have
not?
access to.
Best team in the sport.
Also, the $200 and something that we pay to Major League Baseball actually allows us to watch the Phillies.
I mean, when will you take this to Congress? The blackout rules.
I need the help of a nonprofit journalistic organization to actually do the work.
Yeah.
Also I take it to Congress and they're like, whatever, they're flying flags upside down and no one cares.
But if you had gone and you were
the
like
Supreme Court, but okay.
You know what I'm saying? There are no consequences.
Woke snowflakes are keeping me from the Dodgers. I'm sure you would get a hearing then.
Have you turned your flag upside down yet? since all this has
I
come
have
out?
to say, I was talking about this with Andy earlier, and I'll say it to you straight up. I find this so funny. Like, it's terrible, and I think we're going to probably not have a government soon, but it's like the idea that this like woman who's as old as my mom, and she's just like, no, I won't. And he's like, well, she said she wouldn't change the flag. And it's like, why are we so domed by like old people? You can confuse them.
But are you talking about Sam Alito's wife?
Yeah. Why are we so scared of her?
Who's scared of her?
I don't know. People seem like, oh, God, see, this is like, I just think it's like, these people have as much power as we give them.
I think it's honestly a very relatable story where it's like, my wife wants to do something and I can't get her to stop.
Why is fucking Anthony Bourdain and Tom Petty dead? Why do we have to live in this world where like all of our heroes, all the special people die and fucking Mitch McConnell is still like, I got you. I got the whole free world in the headlock. What's up with that? These old people flying flags and we're like, I guess we're just not going to have a republic.
Here's why we're not cutting this. This is really in the spirit of the Linklater project.
It's really true. That's good. I agree with everything.
Why is Tom Petty dead and Mitch McConnell alive? Thank you for asking the important questions. Slackers in. Dazed and Confused.
In.
Is there anything else you'd like to say about it? When the GTO comes around the corner, Sweet Emotion hits.
Yeah.
Like, we're good.
Really,
we're good.
really
it's going to be a great night in America. 1995 Before Sunrise.
In.
Okay,
you ever been to Vienna?
Yep.
Have you been to Vienna?
I haven't.
I went on Easter weekend and everything was closed. But I saw Big Lebowski there, which was funny.
Did you?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Was it in the original Austrian?
It was in the 90s, and I would say that the jokes did not land as well as they did in America.
Huh. There actually are German nihilists in that film.
Yeah. I mean, Vienna, obviously, Austria has a complicated relationship with Germany.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We learned about that in the Sound of Music.
Who learned about it?
My family, every day.
The Von Trapps.
Best joke in that movie is when he's like, I want to know what happens in the movie. What do you think happens in the movie? And he's like, he fixes the cable. I'm watching the porno. I'm sorry. I just think that's so funny. 1996 Suburbia. I'm going to tell you a true story about this. I have a DVD copy of Suburbia. It's a very hard film to get your hands on. Not
DVD.
Blu-ray. It's never been
You're
issued on Blu-ray.
You're going to have to be more specific with your terminology and your jokes.
I'm sorry. I
if
will.
You know, because then it's like the loophole that they get us on.
Oh, right. Okay.
Who's they?
You know.
Mrs. Alito.
I'd never watched this DVD of Suburbia. I bought it just to round out the collection.
Okay.
And popped it in last night. Turns out it was a DVD-R, which means somebody had like recorded the movie onto
Where
the
did you
DVD.
buy it?
Bought it on Amazon.
Okay. From
And
a reputable seller?
Yeah, I think it was just straight up from Amazon, but someone had manufactured it. And there was an audio sync off. So the whole movie was 1 second behind the audio and the video unmatched.
Is it on streaming?
I assume it is. I assume you can buy it on Apple or Amazon. But boy, I really loved this movie in the 90s. And I thought I was a really deep thinker because I was like, I too am destroyed by the banality of Suburbia. Thank you very much, Eric Bogosian, for your trenchant thoughts, the screenwriter, of course, of Suburbia. And it does feel...
It's kind of a dark side of Dazed.
I was just going to say, it feels very much in conversation with Dazed and Confused. It is like sometimes you're the quarterback and sometimes you're the dipshit at the convenience store.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting movie. It's really, really misanthropic for a filmmaker who very rarely is.
Who is not. Yeah. And the more he tries to be satirical, cynical,
he struggles with that.
Like he is very good with discomfort and figuring out like what you are, and certainly skepticism, but there is like an earnest core to his filmmaking that when it goes too far the other way, you're like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's really well put. So Suburbia out, red?
Out, but with respect.
With respect.
Yeah.
Yeah. You like that he tried.
And Ribisi's really good in it, and Steve Zahn's awesome in it. A very scary Nikki Cat performance.
Yes. Parker Posey, obviously,
Awesome.
returning.
Yeah.
She is a queen. 1998, The Newton Boys.
I respectfully know, but it was his like big venture into what if I was like a Hollywood filmmaker.
It might be the movie of his that works least well.
I would agree with that.
You know, like I didn't revisit it for this, but I think I did revisit it when we talked about Dazed with Melissa.
I rewatched it yesterday.
It is actually made by a guy who doesn't know how to make a movie like this. And you kind of get his ambition, and there's a little bit of the like Thieves Like Us, Robert Altman intention going on here, where it's like, what if I make a movie that's this period gangster movie, but also I like subvert our expectations about what kind of movie this could be, but it doesn't really play. 2001 Waking Life. Actually, that title has not been uttered yet through 1 hour and 10 minutes of discussion here.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first rotoscope experiment.
Mm-hmm.
His reunion with Wiley Wiggins,
Mm-hmm.
who was he your favorite actor of the 90s?
He's up there with Sizemore. Yeah.
This movie is a fascinating experiment, and if people thought Richard Linklater was pretty philosophical in his work till this point, they got a confirmation by watching this movie, which is effectively a series of filmed and reanimated conversations and ruminations from a collection of interesting characters that he's crossed paths with over the years, including Celine and Jesse from the Before films, and a number of other characters. My gut is that this goes in because it's a pretty critical movie in the story of his career.
It's not my favorite one of his rotoscoped films, but I will allow. Yeah.
Then do we?
Do you want to jump ahead and talk about the two?
You can yellow it.
We could yellow it right now.
Let's yellow it.
You want to yellow Waking Life? Okay.
Yeah.
You've never seen it?
No, I watched part of it.
You think this is a movie for dorm room boys?
Listen,
many.
Listen, the thing is that dorm room boys need movies too. And sometimes
they have so many.
Yeah,
they have so many.
But then sometimes there are movies that help the dorm room boys grow into, dorm room men that I know and love and podcast.
Yeah.
With.
Do you think you're podcasting with dorm room men right now?
That's an interesting question.
I think I'm a beekeeper.
Like you've always been a beekeeper?
What would the beekeeper do with Mrs. Alito?
Dispatch with her, I think.
Wasn't there someone running the beekeeper organization though? Who turned
Minnie Driver. No, she was the CIA head of the CIA.
Yeah. And then Jeremy Irons is like afraid
the most
of
electrifying
everyone.
90 seconds of film this year was Minnie Driver on a phone talking to dead air.
Yeah.
The beekeeper. That was a great
Do
movie.
you feel like you were a dorm room boy, or were you fighting?
I never lived in a dorm.
Yeah, I know, but like spiritually, it's okay.
Yeah, it's more of like a Tom Verlaine kind of downtown poet.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
a strung out spirit telling truths all over the land.
Great. Okay.
You were an athlete.
Not in college. No, I was a musician.
But you were an athlete of the mind.
Yeah. I was a musician of the mind as well. I wasn't really a musician. I would say.
What instrument did you play?
I could play guitar, but I was a vocalist. Why is that funny? It's true. I wasn't a singer.
I know, but
you were a vocalist, but not a singer?
I would not call what I did singing. It was hardcore.
And you vocalize to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
Well, sing a tune for us right now.
I still have a video of my live performance.
Cue it up.
Yeah.
Let's see it.
I'm saving it for its Blu-ray release.
Was it directed by Linklater?
We have a really nice UHD 4K coming out on the JMO Patreon of Chris's old performances. We've been working really, really hard on it. Director's commentary, the whole 9.
Wait till I pull that off the shelf in the Criterion Closet 10 years from now. And here we have Crash Activated 1997. How very exciting. Okay. So Waking Life is yellow. Tape.
Electrifying when I saw it first. I have not revisited Tape in a long time. So, but very interesting experiment in storytelling. It's all one room. Was this, and it's improvised, or was it written by the people in the movie? I can't remember the creative kind of process for this.
It's based on a play written by Stephen Belber. The setup is that it takes place in real time. So it's effectively over a 90-minute period one night where a drug dealer and his friend, who is a firefighter, rent a room, and I'm trying to remember like how the Uma Thurman character like comes into the setup. It's a very strange, like pretty uncomfortable movie, and that there's like a lot of angst in like the sexual history between the characters. It's a fascinating experiment. It probably has not aged as well as you would want it to right now, but it feels like him trying to kind of get back to basics a little bit. And in fact, like the before films are maybe a better vehicle for exploring some of these dynamics that he's interested in. So to me, it's a red, even though it's a fascinating movie in his career history.
Yeah.
Agree.
Okay. 2003, School of Rock.
I mean, I think it has to be a green.
I think it's as big as it has to go in. And I still honestly enjoy this movie.
Yeah,
I think,
it's fun.
It's interesting. I wonder how many times he's worked with a screenwriter as accomplished as Mike White.
I think it's pretty much this.
And I that would be a one what if with him. Be like kind of cool to see him work off of like, obviously he's like, I want to take the text and then I want to play and see what happens. But this is a really well done like Hollywood movie.
Massive hit. $130 million on a $35 million budget. Automatically in. 2004, Before Sunset.
In.
Incredibly green.
Okay. So we're through 15 years of his career here. We've got 5 greens and 1 yellow. Things get a little bit interesting as we go along here. 2005, Bad News Bears remake.
I don't think so.
I
don't think so either.
Yeah.
This is a rare miss, like an entire miss. Like the original Bad News Bears
is perfect.
Is a brilliant movie.
Billy Bob's not bad in it, but I think that this was like, I can see why you did it, and you can see he's going from extremes here, where he's basically working in the sort of like red meatest of like, you guys want me to make a baseball movie, let's do it, to, hey motherfuckers, Scanner Darkly. How about that?
I think it's what you were describing earlier, which is that he is literally doing the one for you, one for me mode so that he can get some of his experiments off the ground. The next 2 movies are really interesting. He directs 2 movies in 2006. The first is A Scanner Darkly, which I assume is the rotoscope film you prefer.
Rotoscope?
Out of this and Waking Life, yeah.
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 You haven't seen Apollo 10.
I haven't seen Apollo 10. Yeah. I apologize.
This is based on a Philip K. Dick story.
It is.
And pretty trenchant movie when you watch it right now. It's basically about surveillance and the culture of surveillance and feeling like you're being watched all the time. Once again, Philip K. Dick has written something that has just come true in our society. It's only happened 300 times. Very cool movie.
Yeah, Downey is wild in this.
Downey, Keanu Reeves, Woody Harrelson, Winona Ryder. Pretty stacked cast. They've all been animated. So you've never seen it?
No, I've seen it. And I rewatched part of it yesterday. And I was still like, okay, but why can't I just see Robert Downey Jr. as Robert Downey Jr., respectfully?
You want to know why he chose to rotoscope the film?
I understand why, because they're playing different people throughout the thing. And so, and I get it, but I watched those scenes and I'm like trying to imagine what the real life scene that they filmed looked like before they rotoscoped it,
I think that the intention for this movie, for Waking Life, and for Apollo 10.5 is that they are all movies that are effectively like happening inside of a complicated mind or the memory. And so the blurriness, the haziness, this kind of like slipstream of
Mhm.
the animation style is meant to evoke a complex psyche and not like this is happening right now.
Yeah.
And so he's chosen for all three of those movies in totally different registers. Like one is a movie about philosophy, basically, and another movie is about kind of paranoia, and then the third movie is just about memory, just like something that happened a long time ago. So I think they're all like well reasoned to use this style. They're not like really that fun to rewatch, I find.
Yeah.
Once you've seen it, you feel like you've seen it.
I mean, this is the thing that we keep saying. Like, he is trying a lot of different things. He has core interests. He's interested in playing with form, and it's cool to try things.
Mhm.
And then sometimes you don't need to revisit them 15 times as a viewer.
Okay.
And like, so respectfully red.
So
but you
what
wanna
would
yellow
you would
it?
say yellow.
I would say yellow.
Okay,
Yeah.
respectfully yellow.
2006 Fast Food Nation. I did rewatch this yesterday.
I rewatched it as well.
As did I.
Oh, interesting. We all watched it. Well, let's talk about it a little bit.
Avril Lavigne is in this movie.
Among many other people.
Yeah, but I was like, that was my big takeaway. Like, wait, is that Avril Lavigne? And then it was in fact Avril
Feels
Lavigne.
incredibly dated and incredibly
Yeah.
contemporary at the same time.
Really interesting experiment of a movie that I think ultimately does not work, but it's based on a nonfiction book that Eric Schlosser wrote. He co-adapted the book with Linklater. It's all about effectively like the crisis of fast food and like the unsafe environments in which the food is created and this like treacherous series of interconnected worlds that contribute to the way that we get and eat our food in America. And it's a tall task to adapt a pretty dry piece of, nonfiction reportage into this story. And some of the strands, I feel like once you're getting invested in something, he's like, okay, let's go over here now. And it's very Altman-y and very kind of like sprawling, and he keeps introducing new characters. And you've got like Paul Dano and Glenn Powell are like high school kids working at, a fast food joint. And then also Louis Guzman is like a coyote, like running immigrants out of Mexico and into the United States. And then you've also got, Chris Christopherson is like a longtime cattle hand who knows how things really work in the world of meat farming. Like it's a really, and Greg Kinnear is kind of like the anchor of the movie. And he's a newly hired CMO at a McDonald's style fast food chain who is learning in real time just how kind of literally toxic, a lot of the food that is made at this company that he has to help sell actually is. It's kind of all over the place. I'm curious, like, what you mean by dated in terms of.
Well, even the kind of 2006 political sensibility, and like I think kind of like this is the truth. Like we've kind of like it had almost like that Michael Moore feeling of like I'm coming to you with like this uncut. But the funny thing about it is like I think maybe how little things have changed. You know what I mean? Like over the years, that despite the rise of like popular vegan and vegetarian diets and everything, and our awareness of what this is doing to the planet, people still eat meat. People still go to McDonald's. There's an almost like, oh, that was cool when we tried moment to it.
Yeah. It does. There was like that specific moment when we were like, wow, did you know that fast food in America's food supply chain is like completely corrupted and making everybody sick? He does also try to infuse it. I mean, it is about the fast food industry and about how we get our food, but it's also kind of like a larger thing about American consumerism and who gets lost in, the great wheel that is American capitalism.
There are some
and so
bracing scenes in
yeah,
it too.
Yeah. But so it's, and I think it would be hard to make this movie without getting at those larger points, but it doesn't, because as you said, it's so sprawling, it doesn't totally land all of it. It feels like it's a little bit over here and then like a little bit over there. And
yeah, there's a version of it that's just Kinnear and it's like Spotlight, but the fast food industry.
Right.
I think he very purposefully was trying to, and I don't think he was checking boxes per se, but trying to show
he's like
that
the Catalina
there is this
Santino
web.
Moreno plot and that scene with her in the factory and like seeing the cows, the
slaughter,
Right.
slaughters.
Yeah. And you can feel him trying to get a big thesis across that is not just. Sometimes there's a white savior who's an executive in a big company. Like that would have been the movie version of this in 1996. And in 2006, I think you're right. There was a kind of like crusading do-gooderism to left-leaning American artistic political action that was very sincere. Candidly, like, and I was right there with him at the time, but pretty like a little overheated, a little like self-important in a way. And now it's funny to look at a movie like this because I know what you're saying, and maybe this is just me, but I don't think so. We're so like cynical and nihilistic and like, I know everything's terrible about everything.
Yeah.
And so just like, well, what the fuck are we gonna do about it?
Right.
And
Well,
we're
it
so
goes-
defeated.
Yeah.
This movie is like ultimately idealistic. It's like,
But-
we gotta do something about this. You know, that's what the idea of the movie
There are
is.
scenes from multiple Linklater films where characters have this conversation.
Right.
Like, why do you care if we're just going to be dead in 50 years? And
Yeah.
he's like, because I understand humanity. Like Giovanni Ribisi's character in Suburbia, like, does this speech.
Yeah. Where do you fall? Should we just give up?
Yeah.
Move to Paris?
Mm-hmm. They love McDonald's there. Gotta
Do
say.
they?
Yeah.
Oh,
Still
yeah.
going?
Yeah.
Yeah. Royale
You
with
know?
cheese?
Yeah. Also, the Egg McMuffin protein for €1.
Oh,
or
yeah, the
whatever.
killer. Yeah.
There we go.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I thought it was literally called The Killer for a second. I got confused.
How's your macro stuff going?
Yeah, it's been an interesting experience because I just really haven't been cooking very much because my wife has been in and out of town
Right.
a lot. So I've just
Is
been.
she out of town right now?
She's not, but
Okay,
she is
good,
going
'cause I
back out
wanna
of town.
when?
Sunday.
God damn it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to text her.
But yes, I have not been really on top of my macros, but not
Okay.
honestly not eating poorly. I'm more like I'm eating like basically Soylent, except it's not actually, but like I'm like, this is just food and it goes in me. You know?
Okay.
The Sean diet.
It's called Fuel. I'm launching a new fast food chain called Fuel.
You and
Great.
Solak.
Yep. He's going to need it. He's a dad now.
Is Ed Norton investing?
Honestly, I'm open. So, Edward, if you'd like to call me, please do. Okay. So that movie I think is a red, Fast Food Nation. Very noble, interesting film.
Also, as you noted last week, the first of the many Glenn Powell, Richard Linklater.
Their bond begins
Collaborations.
here.
Yeah.
This is their first of 4. 2008, Inning by Inning, A Portrait of a Coach. I have watched this film. I have not seen it in a very long time. This is a rare documentary in his oeuvre. It's a portrait of Augie Garrido, who is the winningest coach in baseball,
UT,
college
right?
baseball history. Yeah,
Yeah.
head longtime coach of Texas. One of the stars of this film, Roger Clemens. What are your Roger Clemens thoughts?
I recognize the name.
I am not a fan of Roger Clemens or his work.
Not a fan.
No.
Is it because
Although
of
I
the
think
steroids?
his kid is on the Phillies.
Oh, he was a steroids guy?
He was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But his kid's
Yes,
on
I
the
think his
Phillies
kid is in the Phillies system.
Phillies system.
What's his name?
Cody, I think.
Cody.
Cody Clemens.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I remember him like coming out and hugging his dad when he would throw a no-hitter or something. Let me tell you, Roger Clemens was fucking good at baseball. He seemed like a real dickhead, but he was very, very good. Bob, is that accurate?
Oh my God, he's amazing. If you watch him in the 1986 World Series, like early Red Sox before any of the steroid stuff, it's just awesome. One of the most aesthetically pleasing pitchers ever.
I thought he was incredible as a Red Sox player, but like him going like doing the tour of the AL East.
When he went to the Blue Jays, you didn't
yeah.
like that so much?
Not so much.
Interesting. Okay. Inning by Inning, A Portrait of a Coach, I don't think is in the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
2011 Bernie. I'm feeling like maybe Bernie is in. What are your thoughts on Bernie?
I don't like this movie a super lot because I have a little bit of a Jack Black allergy.
Welcome. It's okay.
I now that you've mentioned that the streets will come for me
Yeah,
about that,
his fans are online.
but I think that this is a dazzling piece of almost borderline like Hollywood movie making, where it's like
It's a Hal Ashby movie.
Yeah.
The Texas Greek chorus is phenomenal.
Awesome. Yeah.
and very I
Very
think
hard.
ahead of its time in the Texas monthly true crime kind of like subgenre.
Total.
Yeah.
I mean, this is based on a Skip Hollandsworth
Yeah.
story, which is what Hitman is also based on a
Right.
Skip story. Skip and
There's no
and Rick are
hitman without
friends.
Bernie for sure.
Totally. Very, very much in the same lineage. Interesting performances, I think, from McConaughey and Jack Black and Shirley MacLaine. Dark comedy is really hard. Arguably the most difficult after satire genre of movie to make. I think it works really well. I like this movie a lot.
It's
I
also
think it's funny.
populated with a bunch of people who are even if they're actors I've never seen before, and like it just feels like there's this like really cool juxtaposition of like 3 giant movie stars with a bunch of people who seem like they actually live in this Texas town.
Yes, in the
Yeah.
small town. And
Yeah.
the small town people kind of walk away with it,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
I will yellow it.
Okay.
Okay.
I think it's very well regarded.
But it's
I think it's
Where-
a new
what do-
phase for
it's
him.
maybe it's like
Might be just on the
I
outside.
was about to say orange, but no, yellow and green makes no.
Yellow and green makes
blue.
No, blue
Isn't
and yellow
and
make
green-
green. I
Yeah.
have a lot of books about this. So what do yellow and green put together?
Yellow and blue make green.
That I said that.
Yeah,
So yellow.
Wouldn't
What's
yellow and green
going
then
towards
make
green?
blue?
Chartreuse.
Okay, like a lime green.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay, so Bernie is chartreuse. Bobby, let's make sure we've got that right. That color framing that no one will ever see.
Well,
accurate in the
according to
document.
Google, lime green is it. So Amanda, you hit the nail on the head.
Lime green.
Excellent
Oh,
work.
great.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you so much. We're working on colors at home right now.
Okay, 2013, Before Midnight. I'd like to have a discussion about this movie.
Okay. This movie is incredible.
I'm in my 40s. Chris is in his 40s.
Congratulations to both of you. How's it going?
You keep getting your shots in. We just know on the other side of the fence.
I mean, the clock is
Me
literally
and
ticking.
fantasy.
Yeah, every single
I
day.
have a fucking a lot of knowledge for you.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
This movie was made 11 years ago. It is only just now becoming resonant for me. Not insofar as like I'm in an unhappy marriage, although the characters in this movie aren't in an unhappy marriage, but the accumulation of stress and anxiety
Mhm.
that comes with a lived life is a really fascinating thing to focus a movie on that honestly does not happen very often in Hollywood. It's very rare. It's much more common to get before sunrise or before sunset
Yes.
than to get before midnight. I think this movie is very hard to take. And so it doesn't have the reputation that the two previous films do. It's when you get to the end of it, you're like, fuck. Like,
Yeah.
I'm on the other side of my life. I'm on the back half of my life. And that is something that is very hard for most people to cope with and contend with. I really think it's a very brave piece
I
of
was
movie
going to
making.
say it's one of the bravest things I've ever seen someone try to do in the movies is to take a totally perfect film and be like, what would happen a decade later?
Yeah.
And if these people who you were basically like, that's goals right there. That's how I want like love to feel. And then they were like, you're really annoying the shit out of me 10 years later.
You're a little older. You're a little uglier. You're a little fatter. You have annoying kids. And even though you're in paradise,
Yeah, that's
things
the
are
other
bad.
thing. It's like they're just in Greece living it up.
And they cannot resist gnawing at each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way that married couples
And
gnaw at
then
each other.
obviously like the set piece fight in the hotel.
Yeah.
Like Delpy and Hawk just going for it.
Yeah. Interesting movie. Like, actually did pretty well. Made very modestly. Made $25 million. Oscar nominated. Linklater still never won an Oscar, which is criminal. It's weird to put all three in, but I
don't
kind of
think
feel
it's
like it has to
weird.
go
No,
in.
it's
Yeah.
I don't think
not-
it's weird.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on Before Midnight?
How many movies do we have?
Right now that are in, we have 6.
Okay.
We also have 3 yellows at the moment.
Okay.
We've got 2, 4, 6
So
more. to go.
Before Midnight is in, what do you guys think of Boyhood? This, whatever it is, 10 years on.
I mean, so he hasn't won an Oscar, but this was widely nominated.
Yeah.
Like this is his most celebrated, I think, at least in an Oscar sense. I rewatched. Let me be very honest. This movie is 3 hours long, so I didn't rewatch all of it, but I did because I hadn't seen it in several years. So I revisited parts of it. You know, I'm like, oh, he's 5. Oh, he's 9. Or
you guys were
whatever.
potting during when Boyhood came out. No?
Yeah.
Not yet?
It was,
Not yet.
Oh, no, it's still Grayland.
it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
2014.
Right.
Yeah.
At the time, I remember my reaction to it being pretty muted.
Okay.
Rewatching it, you know, especially now that I have a little boy
Now
in my
that the
life.
Astros have won multiple World Series.
Yeah, yeah, sure, right. Like I was drawn to it. It's an amazing experiment that's also in some ways like a thesis of if Linklater is just like about a series, you know, moments
Yeah.
in life, which he is, and he has his characters say often. Like it's an amazing representation of that. It is also like a 3-hour movie, like that doesn't have like the 3-act structure. You know, it's kind of like ambling along. So it has a lot of amazing moments. I still wasn't like, this is
I think
my
it's
favorite
a
of his
massive
films.
achievement that I
Yeah.
don't often feel compelled to revisit.
exactly.
I also think you just touched on something that's really interesting about a person with this many movies under their belt and with this many experiences in Hollywood and also working on his own, which is like he just doesn't really do plot. Like, and that's actually kind of stands out with Hitman is how deeply plotted it is without getting too into the weeds about it. You're right. It's a 3-hour movie where like I kind of can't remember what happens other than the divorce and a camping trip at a baseball game because
baseball game is so great.
It's
though.
awesome.
I mean,
it's awesome. There's awesome moments in this movie. Are you going to come out and be like, Boyhood is the one?
In 2014, when it came out, I had it at number 11 on my top 50 movies of the year, which is too low.
It should have been higher.
What was 1 through 10?
Whiplash, Inherent Vice, top 5. Remember top 5?
Yeah. My dad loved that movie. And my husband hated sitting next to my dad watching that movie.
It's a great movie. It seems weird to have top 5 ahead of Under the Skin and Gone Girl now, but I did back then.
It was a very fun movie.
You know, we're making
I also
lists,
like
you know?
this culture of accountability that you're developing.
Well,
Keep going.
I'm working through it. Selma was 6.
Okay.
Ida was 7. Birdman was 8. I definitely would not put that
Yeah,
there.
no.
Having revisited. Most Violent Year was 9. The Babadook 10. And Boyhood was 11.
Okay.
That's interesting.
So it would probably be 6 now, if I had to guess.
Okay.
Maybe 5. It's just one of those movies where I'm like, this is just like very close to my life. Like it's just a lot of what happens to Eller Coltrane's characters is very, very close to my life. So it's, I think I almost was like rejecting it the first time I saw it, where single mom, bad boyfriend, having siblings, being like comfortable in your skin, but not comfortable as a kid, not really knowing how to deal with what had happened to your family. It's weird when like art is like, feels very, very close to the bone like that. Yeah. And it was also a filmmaker who I had a huge relationship with. And I already felt like, wow, has a director ever nailed high school the way that Dazed and Confused nails high school? You know, like he just seemed to he seemed to understand something about me. And so I think I was a little bit like afraid of the movie. And then I watched it probably like 3 or 4 years ago and I was like, this is crazy how amazingly conceived and executed it is, even though what you guys are saying is true, which is like, it is kind of aimless and it is more experiment than it is movie ultimately.
Yeah.
But the fact that it got to the place that it got.
And shame on me because like actually like the Patricia Arquette character, like moving house is actually the most important thing that could happen in a movie and not like, does he get to the end of the Fury Road? It's like I understand how obnoxious it sounds to be like, not a lot happens in this movie, even though it's like a life.
Yeah, I think it's more in the spirit of like a Michael Apted documentary than it is typically narrative-driven movie. It's also like Birdman was also a movie that had a kind of gimmick affixed to its narrative, and that's the movie that won Best Picture that year. And this really like in the arc of movies, you'd be like, that was Richard Linklater's year, to your point. You know, it had so many nominations. Patricia Arquette won for supporting actress that year. Ethan Hawke was nominated. Like, it will go down as one of his significant achievements for sure.
It needs to go in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely great.
In the Hall of Fame.
What's your take on his Beatles theory? You remember this?
Remind me, I can't.
So Ethan Hawke gives the Eller Coltrane character like his version of the Black Album, which is all the Beatles solo material arranged together in like a perfect to Ethan Hawke's character.
Like 1 John, 1 Paul, 1
and
George, 1 Ringo.
And sequenced just so because the his theory is there is no favorite Beatle. It's the balance that makes it all work out.
The thing about Chris doesn't care because he doesn't like the Beatles.
I like the Beatles fine. They're just an inferior band to the Rolling Stones.
Okay. This is Chris's last episode. Alice pulled the Paul McCartney lyrics book off. And so we just played a game where I was like, turn to a page and we'll play the song. So we would just like, she would just like open the book, flip to a page. It was really fun. I guess there's some truth to that. I like all the solo stuff though, for all 4 of them. Like I can find Ringo songs and I'm like, this song, it's great. So I don't, of course they were better together, but most bands, when they're like, speaking of the Stones, you know, Mick Jagger's solo shit, like
not bad. It's got some, got some jams.
Is it Imagine?
No, but like if Mick Jagger had died, I think you would have looked back on it. No, I didn't say that.
Okay. I would take Bukula Blues.
I just think it's weird that John Lennon just stole that whole thing from Forrest Gump, though. You know, like
No Religion too. Okay, so Boyhood is in.
Yeah,
and Everybody Wants Some.
Everybody Wants Some is in.
Absolute green.
Watch Everybody Wants Some. Where can you watch it? Is it on Paramount Plus?
I'm Googling. I'd love to Google that for you.
You don't have these problems. Just gleaming Blu-rays on your
I do.
shelf.
I own all these films on physical.
It seems to be a part of the MGM Plus subscription. Is that now a part? Is that your Stars? What is that one?
I think it's also on Paramount.
It's a smaller subscription service that is owned by Amazon that has its own unique output.
Okay. Well, I'm Googling Paramount. It's not coming up.
Most things on MGM Plus eventually go to Amazon, but and if they license something, I don't really get that.
Oh no, it's not. It's too bad.
Was it an MGM movie? Maybe it was an MGM movie. I thought it was a Paramount movie. Doesn't matter. It's a wonderful film about going to college and playing baseball with your boys and then getting in a tube in a river, going down that river with a gal, looking her in the eyes and being like, thanks for being in this tube with me.
Oh man.
You know, you go to a party, you meet a guy who's a punk rocker. You're like, maybe I like punk rock. Maybe I am a punk. Actually, I'm into Van Halen. Just kidding. I'm into early Fleetwood Mac. You know,
it is apparently available on Paramount Plus. Good job.
Okay.
It is a Paramount movie. Okay.
I do really find that Everybody Wants Some is like a major reference in how I relate to my son and like what I imagine that he's going to be. And he does have like a bit of Linklater character in him for sure. But when I'm trying to understand what the future could be for him, I often think of this group of boys.
Of him being Glenn Powell.
Well, which maybe that would be great. But this is a good advertisement for masculinity, in my opinion.
I will say that there is a guy in Everybody Wants Some who plays Nesbitt. It's Austin Amelio, and he's a standout performer in Everybody Wants Some. And he almost steals Hitman.
He's so funny in Hitman.
Yeah.
People will see when they watch it. He's fantastic. Okay, Everybody Wants Some is green. Last Flag Flying.
How is this not an awesome movie?
Well, I think it's a very, very downbeat film.
Yeah, but like, so is Last Detail. I mean, like, what do you think maybe holds this movie back a little bit? So it's essentially it's written by the same authors, co-written by Daryl Ponsican. Stars Steve Carell and Lawrence Fishburne and Bryan Cranston, all arguably operating at around the peaks of their powers.
Yep.
And is about Carell taking his recently killed son, his body, to Arlington on this long road trip.
Hard to believe it's not a rollicking good time.
Yeah.
I didn't say why didn't this do Anyone But You numbers. I'm just curious. Like it doesn't really work for me.
Mhm.
And I don't know whether it's the casting or if it's what it is.
I think casting has a bit to do with that, and that's unfair to Carell, who should get to do whatever he wants. But sometimes it's hard to look at Steve Carell in particular and not want the voice of Gru or whatever. Do you know who Gru is?
I know Gru is.
That's good.
Yeah, not want him to get his chest hair taken off by
Yeah, what if he just played the 40-year-old virgin as Doc from Last Flag Flying?
Yeah.
Would that work? I have affection for this movie. The first time Linklater came on the pod was for this film. I'm sure that is contributing to my respect for it. I think it's an Amazon movie, and it was at a time when I think I was writing about this on The Ringer at the time.
Like right after Manchester by the Sea, right?
Yeah, and they were like, okay, basically the new indie cinema is
It's
Amazon
here.
paying people who were making movies in the 90s, and this was his version of Manchester by the Sea. I think it's very good. I think Fishburne is incredible in it. It's just a very sad story about a very sad period in American history, and it's okay to make
Sad
a morose
things.
drama
Yeah, sure.
sometimes.
Yeah.
It is his morose drama. But it sounds like because you don't respect Vietnam veterans, you want it to be red.
All right. let's keep going. I think we skipped me and Orson Welles.
Oh, we did. Why is it not even on my
yeah.
list? I completely biffed that. So Me and Orson Welles comes in 2008, which comes after Inning by Inning, A Portrait of a Coach. How did I not have it on the list? So what do you guys think of this movie?
I think it's okay.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty good.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I also like old Hollywood.
Is that Christian McKay plays Orson Welles?
Christian McKay.
He does a great job.
He does. I think it's an overlooked movie that's not in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I really enjoy Zac Efron in this movie. I think he's turning in a great performance. Claire Danes, Zoe Kazan, and Kelly Riley, worth showing up for. Three of my faves.
Is this before Homeland? When does Homeland start?
Yeah.
Homeland is
2012.
2012.
Yes, this was 4 years before.
That was me and Andy's bread and butter.
Yeah, I mean, that I remember.
Recapping episodes of Homeland.
It honestly is like the first like
You guys
40
kept going
episodes of the
for
Hollywood Prospectus is
season
basically
8.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't go that long. I think we, after,
How many people were listening to those episodes?
I have no idea.
Well, if you had to venture a guess.
Well, I think we touched a lot of people who did listen. You know what I mean? Like, where it's like,
You
if you
touched
heard
them
it
physically because there were so few.
if you heard it, you started your own pod, kind of like the Velvet Underground.
Wow.
You know?
The Homeland and Downton Abbey pods, that was, you were Lou Reed and Mo Tucker for sure. Sterling Morrison.
Can I tell you something? I've been rewatching Downton Abbey like when I need something truly mindless for 10 minutes. And I promised myself I would only do season 1. You know, I was like, I'll just like do season 1 until I find another show to kind of fill it in. I'm on season 6 right now.
Are they making another movie?
Yeah, but they swear it'll be the last one.
But like Michelle Dockery still.
But if no one has re-podcasted that, I would really like to do that because I just have so many fucking thoughts. About, like, I just can't believe what they're doing to Bates and Anna already. You know, it's like enough.
In season 6.
In season 6, like, do you know how much they've been through?
Right.
And now we have to do this again, and I gotta watch Bates just be like, it's okay, I love you no matter what, but maybe I'm a murderer. Come on.
I'll watch a new Downton Abbey movie every year if they make one. I'm just
They're
in
really
on that
good.
world.
Yeah, have you seen the movies?
I have not.
You haven't seen any of the films?
I think I saw the first one.
They're just like exceptional episodes of Downton Abbey.
So here's the thing. The first one is like they just made 2 episodes of Downton Abbey and they sewed them together. This second one is like they just did a Christmas special.
Oh, yeah.
And it's wonderful. And they go to the south of France and you got to watch it.
Okay.
It's on Peacock.
It's about the introduction of sound and filmmaking, which is being an
and
English
Hugh Dancy's
chamber
in it,
drama.
Speaking of Claire Danes, bringing it back together.
Do you like the Downton Abbey movies more than the Hobbit movies?
Without question. I find the Hobbit films, despite what we shared.
But you and I going every day, the day after Christmas, to a Hobbit
I
movie.
think feeding each other Christmas cookies was a wonderful experience. But
and then walking out singing the dwarf songs.
Okay, we're gonna go back from this film is Red, me and Orson Welles.
Yeah.
I think it's worth checking out. It's very different from almost any movie he made. It probably has the most in common with the Newton Boys, where there's like a framework for what kind of a story it is, and it doesn't quite feel like a Linklater movie, but it has some good stuff in it. 2019, Where'd You Go, Bernadette?
I'm just gonna say I don't mind this movie. I kind of like it.
Yeah, we didn't either.
Yeah,
like it's another like I like that you tried.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
It's really hard because like it's a Billy Crudup movie. Not a Kate Blanchett movie in a lot of ways, but I don't know. I found this movie kind of charming.
Is it Crudup that has you like feeling warmer towards it?
I think I just thought it was like I'm glad. Whenever I saw it, I was like, I think it was like kind of massacred critically and box office wise.
It was.
And I saw it, and I was like, "What are you guys talking about?
And it was
This
also
is totally fine."
a very successful book by Maria Semple that because of the way that it's written, which isn't like. You know, lots of emails and like characters around the character of Bernadette. You know, as you said, like Kate Blanchett is the star of this film, and as the title indicates, is like not around other people for a lot of it. So it's sort of awkward to translate. And then they just had that weird fake Antarctica for a while at the end. But I agree. I really liked that everyone wanted to have a go.
It's Red.
Yeah. Well, it's okay.
Apollo 10.5.
I think I remember we were like relatively nice to it or just kind of like, this was interesting. Sometimes you got to try stuff. And then we got feedback of people just being like, what is wrong with you guys?
Those are the early days of shut the fuck up, idiot. Which, it happens from time to time. Apollo 10.5. So you guys haven't seen this movie.
Yeah, tell us about it.
I think I already did. It's about a family in Texas. And
that was great podcasting, but like, tell us all about it.
I was ready for a story.
Yeah. I don't really have a story to tell. It's the third of his rotoscoped movies. What is this space-age
childhood like? So he just watches the space?
It's a 10-year-old boy living in Houston in the 60s who's observing the space race and then imagining himself being a participant in the space race.
Okay.
And so it's like the Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong story, seen through the prism of this family in Texas and this little boy and his interest in sort of like what this could mean for him, what it means for America at the time, what it means to be nostalgic about significant moments in American history. It's funny, like I don't really feel like, do you feel like you have, this is a useful exercise at the end of the pod. I don't really feel like I have a lot of history, like memories of great moments in American history in my lifetime.
You do.
I don't.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, it's been a
Yeah,
it's been a tough beat.
Yeah, it's been.
But I've been alive for 42 years.
Yeah.
So,
But like,
you know,
you were
for my
born in the
parents-
Reagan era. Then
You got to see Bill Clinton play sax on Arsenio Hall.
yeah, that's
I said
true.
great moments in American history.
And then, you know, really from there, anything in those 20 years would have just been consumer achievements, not, you know, national achievements.
You think when Cap got the hammer, would that go on the list?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's really, that's you, you know? You have to decide.
No, not.
What about, like,
is there
in
one for you guys?
Steven
Like,
Spielberg's Lincoln when he's like, no.
well, like this is a movie about being 10 years old when they landed on the
literally
fucking moon and being like, oh my God, this is the
I
world of
remember-
imagination that opens up.
Yeah, this is not the moon, and I'd like to get back to the moon in a second. But you remember when Carrie Strug hit the vault with one leg?
Oh my God, really?
Well,
this is
I
the
was-
best we can do?
I mean, I agree.
What about-
with you.
what
I
about-
straight up agree with you. And also, like now that we know how those gymnasts were, you know, it's like all of it's very
Yeah,
ugly.
cancel her. Go in.
But not
Take
Carrie
her down.
Strug.
Yeah.
Respect Carrie Strug. I was 12.
Mhm.
in
It was an
Atlanta,
inspirational moment. It
and
was an
that
inspirational
was
moment.
like vaguely related
Yeah.
to this country.
The Rock tweeting about Bin Laden is my Carrie Strug. Right?
He broke the news, right?
Yeah.
No. But how did that happen?
He tweeted it.
No, but how did he become aware of it?
I
Was he
I don't know.
texting with Biden?
I don't
what
know.
happened?
I don't think so. He's
Okay.
abandoning him.
Yeah.
I know. We know that.
I'm not sure how he found out. I would imagine he's got
Also,
some
not
friends.
known for being on time, The Rock. So it's like, how did he?
I know, but he's got friends in the forward operating community, maybe.
The forward operating.
Yeah.
This is a forward action.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Those are really good examples from both of you. It's not
Not leading
Bin
in the-
Laden's assassination.
So-
It's the Rock breaking
that's how I found out.
news of. Okay, cool.
Where are you on the moon landing?
But he wasn't alive for it.
What?
Where am I on it? Like, do I think it happened?
I mean, yeah.
I'm open to a wide variety
Okay,
of
what about
ideas
you?
on this.
I think it definitely happened.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
That's never been one that I questioned.
It happened where
Okay.
on a soundstage in Burbank.
Yes. Yeah, I guess you're right. A lot of the stuff that's happened in our lifetime, it's when you're like, what are the sort of memorable moments? They're like pretty bad.
Even the bad
Yeah.
moments that our parents or our grandparents experienced had a kind of, storming Omaha Beach. That's a terrible thing that happened, but it's a triumphant moment in American history in a
Yeah.
way. It's the defeat of fascism.
Right, but that's mostly just, I mean, that is true. They defeated fascism, but also the boomers just love to make it about themselves and how they
do.
did good,
But
you know?
you saying millennials
So-
don't like to make it about themselves? I mean, they certainly do.
Yeah. So it's like, is doing a get ready with me Instagram the same thing as storming Omaha Beach?
What would be on your Get Ready Instagram? Get Ready with me. You should do one.
It's the same thing every morning.
Okay.
It's the same thing every morning. I have my same beauty and skincare routine every morning, and then I have a bowl of Greek yogurt with a banana, blueberries,
Mhm.
and a little bit of granola.
Okay.
And then you take a garden spade full of Soylent and pour it down your throat.
and then I read The Guardian, the newspaper.
You should consider filming yourself just reading the newspaper every morning and see if people are just like, this is my shit. It might work. You could use it.
I'm just worried about who I've alienated with my Mrs. Alito takes.
I think The Guardian's going to be fine with,
yeah.
with you.
I think Apollo 10.5, while a movie worth watching, and not a lot of
Okay.
people watched it,
Do they-
is red.
Okay.
Do they what?
Does like the moon landing happen in Apollo 10.5?
We
Or
should check the movie out.
Well-
Have you considered that? Well, it couldn't be
and
the
Glenn
worst thing
Powell
that
plays a 10-year-old?
No.
He's the dad.
Oh boy.
He's the dad.
How do you know? You
Because I
haven't
saw an
seen
ad
it?
for it, and I kind of like
Guys,
was
we
like,
got to get to Ron Howard here. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, Ron Howard is coming up on the pod. 2023 Hitman. This is, or 2024
Yeah.
Hitman. This is what I really wanted to ask you about without spoiling the movie.
Yeah.
Do you think this movie should go in his Hall of Fame?
how many slots do we have left?
So right now we have 3, 5, 8 greens and 3 yellows.
Scanner Darkly, Waking Life,
And Bernie.
Bernie.
and Bernie. I think Bernie should probably go in.
So if Bernie goes in and at least one of the rotoscopes are going in, then Hitman is not.
It's very
going
hard to
in.
put like a most recent film in a Hall of Fame.
I know I do like this
Yeah,
exercise.
but
though, of
sometimes-
discussing.
sometimes
I'm trying to
we
think
do
of
it.
how I can say this without talking about how I feel about the movie, even though this will probably be my only opportunity to do so.
You have several other podcasts.
I
by
don't
the way.
think so. I don't think it should go into the Hall of Fame of Richard Linklater, but I do acknowledge that it may quickly rise in people's estimation higher than A Scanner Darkly or Bernie.
I would put it over all three of the yellows.
I would put it over Bernie.
I think it's cool to put him in the Hall of Fame. I think it's a brave choice.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And you guys make brave choices on this pod.
I think it's going in.
Okay, great.
Which of the 3 yellows is going in?
I think that you just informed us that it's a rotoscope. So you
Waking
guys
Life or
decide.
Scanner Darkly?
Scanner Darkly.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
That doesn't feel historically correct, but I'm willing to let
Well,
you have
then-
a Scanner
then
Darkly.
fine. Make your Waking Life case.
It finally got contentious, and it's about Philip K. Dick and rotoscoping.
Do you think we should
So you
take
think
out?
Waking Life, because it was his first foray into this medium, this should be the entry, even though Scanner Darkly is a more interesting movie, probably, to me.
Not so sure about that. I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe it is. I'd love to get a straw poll of all the Linklater heads out there.
We should do live, like a rewatch pod of Scanner Darkly and Waking Life back to back with Amanda.
Probably would be one of our more successful episodes. I'll Scanner Darkly it is.
Okay.
For the sake of wrapping this up. So the Richard Linklater Hall of Fame is as follows. 1990 Slacker, 1993 Dazed and Confused, 1995 Before Sunrise, 2003 School of Rock, 2004 Before Sunset, 2006 A Scanner Darkly, 2013 Before Midnight, 2014 Boyhood, 2016 Everybody Wants Some, and 2024 Hitman. Feel good?
Yeah.
I feel great. Yeah.
Thank you to Chris Ryan. Thanks to Amanda. Thanks to our producer, Bobby Wagner, for his work on this episode. Thanks to Jack Sanders. Thanks to Corey McConnell. Thanks to all the listeners out there. What are we doing next week? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you tell me.
New game.
Yeah.
New game. The Let's Start a Movie Studio game. Amanda will get more details about this shortly, maybe just before the rest of the world does. We'll see you soon.